Who's a good dog? Who's a good dog? Yeah, you're the goodest dog. Yeah, you are. Oh, hi everybody. It's Lynn Mandziuk, your professor from Intro to Digital Design, and this is another video on Photoshop. In today's video, we will cover canvas versus image, crop tool, masking tool, select and mask, channels, feather, blur, compositing, heal and clone, and AI backgrounds versus the old school way. I like to call this episode Photoshop, the app that gaslit reality. You see, before this endless stream of TikTok and Instagram filters that flood our feeds with fish lips and perfect eyeliner, we only had Photoshop. If you needed your pores refinished, Photoshop. If you needed a new hairdo, Photoshop. If you needed a new family for your photo, Photoshop. Welcome to Photoshop, the app that ruined your self-esteem, your mom's understanding of reality, and journalism. But we love her for it. What Photoshop actually is, as I mentioned before, it started as a digital darkroom. It was used to fix exposure, to clean dust off photos. It was very wholesome. Now it can erase people, generate fake rooms, and even invent entire vacations. Anyways, this is why media literacy matters. But let's go ahead and open Photoshop and get started for today. So I am just going to open up one of these random images that I used for one of the last demos. We'll use, that's a nice image to look at on a snowy day in Colorado. So what we're going to cover first is canvas versus image. Photoshop has two concepts that you will confuse, and this is canvas versus image. First of all, we have image size. What is image size? Image size, if we have a photo like this, if we go to image size, and we talked about this a little bit in the last exercise. Image size changes the image itself. It makes it bigger or smaller. It's like resizing your body, I guess, like as a whole. It can be done through resolution, right? And that'll take the resolution down. It can be done by width. So if we wanted to make the width 16 inches, and it would preserve the details, right? I could click it and this image would resize itself. Okay, so that's what image resize does, or image size. Now canvas, on the other hand, canvas changes the space around the image. So it either adds room or you can crop away room. It's like moving apartments instead of going to therapy. Just, move it around. Sometimes therapy's better, or image sizing, if we want to retain the image as a whole. So going to canvas size, you can see now maybe I don't want that width to be 16 inches. Maybe I want it to be 10 inches. So I can take that down. You can see that these arrows are pointing to the center. So what that means is wherever I click that center anchor to be, it can be in the top left, it can be in the bottom left, or it could be in the center. Everything's going to crop in to that point. So, for example, if I click OK now, it'll say the new canvas size is smaller than the current canvas size. Some clipping will occur. So I will click proceed and you can see it cropped it in. Okay, so that is how the canvas sizing works. I also showed you the crop tool. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here, we get the crop tool, right? And again, you can either type the ratio in there, use pre-existing ratios, or use a crop tool yourself. Realistically, you wouldn't just be freehanding this tool though. You would have some sort of dimension that you're trying to put your image into for the final format. Now, you'll notice that we have this bar that pops up, which is sometimes very annoying when I don't want to use it. I've finally gotten used to it. It's a newer quality of Photoshop, but now you can do things like generative expand. So what does that mean? Let's say the image started out this size and I want to make the canvas bigger, right? Like that. And obviously this is a problem now because I have all of this area that is not this photo, right? So historically in the past, what we would do is, and I'm going to show you, just to show you what it was like back in the day, using Photoshop, what we would have to do is we would have to do something like this, where we would actually take the original image, copy it, paste it. Again, you would be doing Command C and Command V for this. And, you know, sometimes for something like this, we would probably like paste something together like this over and over again, right? And then we would go in with the rubber stamp tool, because at the time this was the only tool you could use, and you would literally go in and patch this together. So I am going to show you the rubber stamp tool since I am demonstrating our archaic use of Photoshop, because this is also a good tool to know. Despite the fact that we don't need it to do these things, you might need it for something else. So you'll see that the clone tool, the stamp tool, works as like a brush, and it has this airbrush quality. You can change it again to different brushes. It works that way. But if I just use it on its own, you'll see that it says could not use because the area has not been defined. What does that mean? Well, you have to pick, first of all, the layer that you want to adjust. So I'll pick this one because it's above the background. And then I have to click Option on my keyboard and I'll get this. And this is the area that I want to sample from. So what that means is if I want to blend this image into the other image, I would sample from here. And now you can see when I move the brush around, it picked that area to resample. And now I can go in and try to figure out how to make this look more like it's one full background, right? You could even go across like that and paint it over and over again. But you can do that over and over again and stamp that area. That is what we used to have to do. Now, if I took this and I went back to, I think it's the crop tool. You'll note that every tool has a different little bar that pops up here. And these are, again, all the automated or AI tools that we use. Just a note, I know AI is a trigger word, right? It's a big deal. A lot of us are talking about AI in art, AI and other things. This type of AI has existed in Photoshop for at least the past decade. I would say even more like the past 20 years in some way. For us, it was always in the 10 years ago, actually more than that, 15 years ago when I was working at a web firm, Content Fill came out, which is under Edit. We go to fill, you'll see content aware fill right there. And that was like the very first version of AI generation in backgrounds. Now you can actually generate whole images. Back then, we used content aware to take people out of photos or to just lightly retouch things. Now it's become highly more intuitive, but it's been there for a while. So again, I have the crop tool. You can see generative expand. I have a ratio here. I actually haven't used this specific tool. I've used other generators, but not this one. Not this one specifically. I usually use generative fill for something like this. But today we're going to use this just to show you what it does. And I can either do ratio or whatever. I'm just going to do ratio and see what happens. I'm going to click generative fill. First drag the canvas to expand. And what happens there? Nothing. Let's try it with this one. Fill in background. So it's asking me what I want. I'm terrible at prompts. You guys will learn this about me. And I just wrote fill in background. So this is probably going to be anything. I could have written mountain scene or something that was like similar to what already existed, but I didn't. And now I get this, which who even knows? Is that a syringe? Oh, AI. And then I guess because it says fill in, I don't know. Let's try something better. I really didn't try there. I'm sorry. Mountains at dusk, blue colors. Let's try that. And I will say, some of my students in my former classes, I don't have a whole lot of interest in generating images in AI. So as you can see here, I'm not trying really hard with my prompts. I've had students in the past who have gotten really good at prompt writing. I know it's very taboo. It's a very sticky subject right now, but the truth is AI is here and it's not going anywhere. That's how technology is. And so my suggestion would be to use it and to understand where you stand at it. I personally think all art should be created by humans. However, I use sometimes if I have a photo that I need to extend or I need to add in some sort of filler, I'll use generative fill. Um, or sometimes I'm in a pinch and I need to add something into a brochure or something like that. That's where I would use it in graphic design. In illustration, I only use it in the ideation process, and that's only when the only time I use it is when I'm having a hard time with the composition idea. If I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, like maybe rule of thirds would be better, or I'm just stuck. That's when I use it for illustration. I don't let it do any of the heavy lifting for illustration because I'm an illustrator and I'm here to draw things. And I do think illustrations look better when they're hand drawn. I think there's something forced when you see AI stuff, and that's what we're actively trying not to do as illustrators. And with writing, the only time I use it is for like editing. Sometimes I have it help me outline something structurally, but that's mostly because sometimes I don't organize things in the correct order, or I need help with that. And I think the logical processes of AI help with that. But as far as it goes to original artwork, I will not let AI touch that. So that's my preference. Everyone has a different one. I have friends who only do AI generated art and they edit it to make it their own, and that's their world. And they, tell everyone that it's AI art, but they're using from sources or using AI that pulls from sources that are ethical. So that's another thing. However, there is another side of AI that's negative, which is the environmental factor, and that also is an issue. So I am not here to tell you how to think, only that we form our own opinions by trying a lot of different things. And I truly don't think you can be against AI without actually actively understanding it. I think then you become biased. So it's very important to us to be objective, even about the things we might not agree with, including AI. So that was my little spiel on AI. Sorry, Lenny took you for a tangent. Next up, masking. So we did not talk about masking yet at all. Okay, for this demo, I want you to go into Files in the nav in Intro to Digital Design, and I want you to go to Demo 2, and I want you to download all of these. So you can just click here, click download, and they should all download. So once those images are downloaded, you will go into your downloads and double click on the zip file, and it'll unzip that folder, and you'll select all, and we will open with Photoshop. So what I want to demonstrate first, we'll go to the image, the JPEG that says bird. And first of all, I'm going to show you alongside all of these options. I will be showing you how to select a subject first, okay? But first, what we will do is we are going to go over the basic add layer mask button. This is the fast and standard way to create a layer mask. So let's say we have this layer in our file, which we should because we're all using the same photo. And we'll select that. And then to create or add a layer mask, we will click this button right here. And if you hover it, it'll say layer masks. It has a video on it. So if you are ever confused, watch the video. This mask button, again, it looks like the flag of Japan. It is a white rectangle with a dark circle in the middle, and that is the symbol for mask. So if I click this, you'll see that a white thumbnail appears next to my layer thumbnail. It has a chain link, which means they are linked together. And what we can say about this layer mask is that white means that it's visible. Anything black on here would show what is not visible. So let me just show you. I can actually have this thumbnail selected, and if I click my swatches and I grab a paintbrush and I have the black paint selected, if I just paint on that mask, you'll see that the mask is now painted on with black, and that's showing up here. And everything that is painted out with black is masked out. So we paint with black, or we fill different areas with black to mask out areas of an image. Okay, so that's how that works. If we wanted to reveal those, I could reverse and have the white swatch in the foreground. So now I can paint in white, and it would paint the visible parts back here. It would now be visible. Okay. You can click X. If you look at the swatches here, if I click X, I can swap the swatches back and forth. And if you do Alt Option or Command Option, and if you do Alt Option, Command Option, you can direct select that mask. If you do Option Select, you can delete the mask, you can add to mask selection, subtract, all of these things. We also have mask options, so you can change the color of it if you want to show that, so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you the reverse way to do that. Again, if we select the layer that we want to work with, if I click the mask, I can now select this thumbnail, and if I do Option Delete, I fill it in black, and we can see that now the whole image is gone, right? So I can work in reverse this way. So I can now switch the white swatch to be in the front, and now I can paint in these areas that way. Okay, and this is how we would do a painterly effect. This is something that we would do often in traditional Photoshop as well. And that is another way to use that mask. I'm showing these ways first because it's more clear when I explain what a mask is and I can actually show you what it does. You can see up here too, it actually says subtract from mask, add to mask too. So you can actually go up there and they actually have feathering options. So I can go in and feather it. I can make it more or less dense. So it can be like almost like a transparent mask. So those are different options up here. I can just show the black and white there. I can show overlay. Again, this is a nice new feature on Photoshop. It's annoying sometimes when you don't want it there, but when you need it for something, it's great. So again, that's how you use the paintbrush tool for those. So I am going to delete this layer. I'm just going to option click, delete layer mask. And I am going to show you mask from selection now. So this is another way to mask. And I am going to show you our different selection tools also. So this is where we are killing two birds with one stone, or masking a bird 3 different ways with one bird, something like that. Anyways, you get the gist. So traditionally, to grab a huge area of pixels, we used to have to use the magic wand tool. And sometimes you'll still use it. And you can see I selected, this part of the background and it selected everything in that channel that is of that color range. It is a point sample. I can change the tolerance, so I can bring it up. If I brought it to 100 and I clicked on here again, you can see it picks up even more. So that's something I want you to play around with. But the other classic tool we used to use was the lasso tool. So you can see this is a free-forming selection tool. And you can see it's not perfect. So we used to have to go in. And if I select this area, you can see if I zoom in, I need to clean it up a little bit. And I can go in with the lasso tool still selected. And if I click option on any of these selection tools, the minus sign will come up. And what that means is I can get rid of pixels. So I can get rid of the areas that I want to not be selected in this piece. And you can see it's really nerve-wracking. It's time consuming. It's really not the best way to do things, but sometimes you have to in a pinch, or you might just need it for whatever reason. The other tool I want to show you is the polygonal tool. So this is really nice for like architecture, and I'll show you when we work with the architecture photo how to use it. So again, to add pixels now, I showed you how to get rid of them by clicking Option or Alt on a PC. To add, I would click Shift, and you can see that plus sign now pops up. So I can go ahead and select this and use that to pick up pixels. And this is a polygonal lasso tool, so it does not work in curves. So you'll notice that if I'm just selecting on its own, I'm only working in polygons in hard angles. So that's how the polygonal lasso tool works. Again, there's a time and a place for it. I also want to show you the magnetic lasso tool. This is the polygonal lasso tool. You can see it's kind of sticky. It's not the best. Also, you'll know that it's just, it's trying real hard, but it's better for more simple shapes. And then also in here, we have the selection brush tool. So this kind of paints the areas. And then once I paint this, I can go to the arrow and it'll select that arrow or area. So that's the select tool, or the select brush. If we go under the paintbrush, we'll also see object selection, quick selection. So these are newer, and object selection, if I go straight to this, it's not doing a whole lot yet because I need to select it. and you can see it grabbed the whole bird. That's pretty good. But sometimes you're going to have to go back in and edit it with one of these other tools, because it's not always going to be perfect. Like, for instance, I can see some of the feathers over here are not perfect. So I would just go back in and like add some hairs and maybe remove some using that Option and Shift tool and get that outline perfect. I want perfect outlines because if you don't have a perfect outline, then you get backgrounds with this object having a white outline around it. So we always want to make sure it's tight. The other selection tool with the magic wand tool is quick select. This one's also pretty good, but not perfect. You can see, and it kind of just grabs all the pixels quickly. And again, these are newer ones. You'll see that it says select subject here, and I can just select subject and that'll pick the channels up, but this also is not perfect, and we can see that there are some areas here, so I would either have to go in and option select them or hand pick them myself, or go back to object selection because this was really the best option I've had out of all of them. But again, you can't always count on it, and it depends on how high or low contrast the background is. So now that I have this selected, what I can do is I can go to the arrow and I can I have my layer selected. I can go to this layer mask button again and I can click that, and you can see it'll automatically turn this into a mask. And now I have a clear silhouetted image without any disturbance to the background of the original document, but it's cut out, so now I can add in an image to the background or generate one. Okay. So that is how you do a select subject mask. I'm going to show you another way to do a mask. I am going to show you another way to make a mask. And this is a vector shape base mask. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab the shape tool, and I'm going to grab a shape, and let me grab a fun one. Oh, I just don't think. Oh, that would be funny if I did a bird with a bird. I don't really like any of these. Oh, a submarine. That's kind of online with what we're doing. There's water in our scene, right? So I have this shape. So what I'll do is I'll create a new shape. And this is a vector shape. So typically we create vectors in Illustrator. Photoshop is raster, right? So you'll note that this has vector points, especially if I grab the pen tool, we'll see all these points pop up. And you can actually edit some of these if you want. I can delete some of these and move things around and add or change those by using the direct select tool here or by using the pen tool. That is something you can do. However, I'm just gonna leave the shape as is for right now. And the way this works is you want the layer you're clipping to underneath the image. So I want this image to adhere to the submarine, so I will have the image of the bird on top, and then I'll click Control. Oops, sorry. Oops. Control, and we'll see Create Clipping Mask, and this will clip this down to the image. I can move this image around underneath the clipping mask to wherever I want it, and you can see it looks great. The cool thing about doing it this way is I could duplicate this layer. So if I want to duplicate this layer, it's as easy as dragging this layer down to the plus sign and creating a new one. And now I could maybe, I can take this layer and maybe I want to add, a different blend layer in there, and I can turn it and it creates a different effect. But I can layer things that way. Maybe I'm painting over it. Maybe I have another layer that I want to add in here with paint, and I can do that, and we get that effect, and I can layer over and over again. So that's a nice part about creating clipping mask that way. You can also do just a quick clipping mask by selecting these two, and if I hover this arrow with the finger over that and I click option, it's alt on a PC, it'll mask it down that way as well. And that's a really easy shortcut. So that's how to use a shape-based mask. If you create a mask, we have some different control moves for masks. So we have invert, disable, or refine a mask. These are don't panic, you're not stuck controls, okay? So inverting a mask, you would click the mask thumbnail. So we need to go back to a more traditional one. So I could actually just select this and mask this way too. And let's say I have this selected, and if I do Command Control L, that's not working. There we go. If you do Command Control L, my keyboard's not the best for this one. It'll flip and inverse your mask allegedly, but my keyboard's sticky. I have to really be aggressive with it to do that. To temporarily disable a mask, you can shift click the thumbnail. And to feather a mask, you can open the properties here and you can feather that. And you can see it feathers it out. It retains the original shape that way. Okay. Again, all those mask things, if you control click on this mask, they all pop up here. So you can use all of those there. The next thing I want to show you is a gradient mask. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a new layer mask here. I'm going to select my blank mask. I'm going to make sure the black swatch is on top. I'm going to grab my gradient tool, and I'm going to choose up here black and white under basics. And I'm just going to create a mask here, and you can see that the gradient is now masking out. This is nice because it kind of feathers things out. So that's another option for masking. I can change, you know, this threshold, so maybe some of it shows more than the rest. Okay. And last, I'm going to show you another way to mask. So I'm going to delete this layer mask, and we're going to do mask using channels. So if I go to channels, we'll see here it has the different color channels. We're using RGB, so it's RGB. If this was CMYK, it would be using CMYK. So we're going to click through these, and we want to find the one that has the most contrast on its own. I think it's green for this photo. Oh, it's either red or green. I'm going to click green. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this channel. So I'm going to just drag it down here to the plus sign, and now we have a green copy. And I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go to image adjustment levels. And we'll talk more about these adjustments in the next video. And I am going to up the contrast. And you'll note here there's these eyedroppers, so I can actually drop these. So if I click the white on the lighter value, it makes everything that value. If I click the dark one on the darker value, it does the same. But I'm just going to increase the contrast as much as I can. And I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to Control Command click the channel. Sorry, Command click the channel to select it. And I can return to layers and click add layer mask. And you can see it inversed it, right? So I would actually want to go back and select that. And I'm going to go to select, inverse, and then option fill, which did not do what I wanted. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this layer. I'm going to start all over. I'm going to go click the mask again. And there we go. Okay, so then it automatically created the mask. And that's what I actually wanted. So now we have this masking. And if I had a layer under here, we would see that it masked out all the white areas. And that's it for this video. I'm going to create a part 2, and then there was already a part 3 that involves layer selection, but we will cut this one down just to end at masking, and then we will continue with some other new tools.